if we run into an issue where there's a conflict, then quickly, then we could wait for him or just acknowledge him when he shows up.
Sounds good. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and roll call and get this party started here. So because we are, hang on a second, I need to shrink my screen down a little bit. That's not helping. Sorry. There we go. That's what I wanted. So because we're all doing this over Zoom, we'll do an audible roll call. So when I say your name, reply with here. Cook.
Here.
Fowler. Lambers.
Here.
Nieves.
Here.
Rolinski is absent. Shea is absent, and I am here. So here, so we do have a quorum, and if Jean-Pierre pops in, then we will acknowledge that when he starts. So first item on the agenda is the approval of last month's meeting minutes. So if you all got a chance to read over those, I read over them. I didn't have any questions, but I also was not I was also not here for the last one. So if there's anything that needs to be addressed or anything that anybody wants to bring up before we go ahead and vote that into being final, let me know. And since everybody's super quiet, I'm going to assume that nobody has any comments. So I'm going to do a roll call on approve or deny. Cook.
Approve.
Fowler. Lambers.
Approve.
Nieves.
Approve.
Rolinski and Shea are not here, and this is Ike and I also approve. So meeting minutes are approved. Next up is opportunity for public comment. So if anybody's here for commenting on something that does not have to do with a property that we're discussing, this is a good opportunity to bring that up. Otherwise, anybody who's here as a property owner, will give you an opportunity when we present your property so that you can do that too and speak up then. So I don't know if we have anybody on today who's just here to make public comment or not. I can't see all little faces, so I don't think we do.
I don't believe so. I think all the names are associated with applicants. So.
I thought so too. Okay, so I'm just going to keep this moving right along. So first order of unfinished business was the COA for 205 West 9th Street. And Phil, I believe based on the note in the meeting or in the agenda that application has been withdrawn.
That is correct. The property owners have indicated they apologize for having gone ahead and taken action on removing that window after the fire and siding that whole side. They apologize for doing that, and they are planning to go back and reinstall the window and basically reinstate that facade as it was prior to the fire. So they no longer need an approval on this.
Okay. So then we don't need to do anything with that then since it's been withdrawn. So then the next item that was still open was a COA for 256 West 10th Street. And I know that after reading the meeting notes from last month, there were still some questions. So I'll kind of let you tee up where we are with this project so everybody's on the same page.
Sure, and I think either Stacy or Lino are here. Okay, I see Stacy.
Hi, Phil, we're here.
Hey, Stacy.
Great. Welcome.
Okay. So this, as we talked about this last month, there really isn't anything that I am aware of that has changed in the specific application. In your packets, I've indicated this is for a proposed addition or modification and addition on the rear wing of the property. We reviewed it at the last meeting. There were a number of commission comments about a hip roof being changed to a gable end roof. There were comments about the detailing, the frieze and the corner boards were questions that were raised. This is sort of the second application from these folks. They had one approved previously, an application for part of the recovery from the fire was the side porch, kind of a rear side porch on the west side of the building. That was approved. One of the components of that approval was a horizontal window on the rear facade. And that is still part of the approved portion of that. But in the context of the windows that are being proposed on this new application for the rear portion of the building, there were questions raised about the horizontal window. So I think we're at the point, I shared with you just a rough sketch that I provided to the owners that suggests what I heard the commission talking about. Yeah, that sketch you just rolled by there, Mallory. Yeah, that's the rear facade, the notion of a freeze board under the roof, and the widening of corner boards is what I heard being suggested. There wasn't a vote on this other than to table it, but that was being suggested. And there's still the question of the change in roof pitch. And this is the horizontal window that they are proposing on the rear facade. I think that brings it up to date in terms of where we are. I don't know, Stacy or Lino, do you have any comments you want to add to this, or clarifications, or if I missed something?
Nope, that sounds pretty good. I want to discuss the widening of the corner boards in the back, get some clarification on that, because they're not widened now, pre-existing, and the insurance company will only bring it to what's existing. So any big changes like that will come out of our pocket, which is kind of a concern for the amount of money that it's going to take to widen those corner boards a couple inches. So that's kind of a big factor that we need to figure out. And at the freeze board, I really didn't have a clear understanding of what that is or where that goes. If we could get some clarification on that as well, I would appreciate it.
Okay, so I guess Kim, it's back to you, and the commission can discuss those two items or any other items that you think are important at this point.
Mallory, could you scroll down to the pictures of the actual house where it shows that shed extension? Oops, yeah. There, it looks to me like that is a wider corner board, you know, at the very end of that.
It's actually a 4x4 cap that they put usually on siding. It's not very, I mean, it's literally about 4 inches that's there now. It's not anything that looks like the front of the house. The front of the house does have that 1 foot, maybe 11 inches or whatever it may be on each corner of the front side of the house, but on the back side of the house, it does not. But even if that would be a concern or an issue, I don't know what we could do. Honestly, it's just we're putting as much money, all the money that we have into this project just to make it better for the family.
I guess Leo, again, you know, the discussion last week, I don't think we envisioned something as wide as what was on the front of the house, but even the 4 inches on that back corner that are there, if that was done on each side of that corner post, it seems like that would be matching what's, you know, the sort of the style that it is now.
Yeah, and I don't think that would be an issue because
As long as it was the same size,
I don't think
the insurance wouldn't, you know, object to that. But widening it any farther than what's existing would present an issue. And that addition, that shed that corner piece is actually on was put on when?
God knows when, but
In the 60s, maybe
it wasn't,
70s. So it wasn't an original to the actual build of the house.
it was just added on. And if you look at that hip, at the top of that picture where the tarp's at, that's that hip. Now, the reason we wanted to change that because that's an existing bathroom, and it's an only like a, I think it's like maybe a 7 foot height wise for a bathroom, and that's why we wanted to extend it to how we wanted to do it, because it's such a small space headwise. There's not much room. And it would only match somewhat the other side of the house that we have on the back side and the front side, I guess you could say.
Mallory, could you
So
scroll
was that
down?
back portion a hipped roof originally?
Where the shed and the bathroom were additions
Yes.
put on in the 60s,
Yep.
the 50s. Prior to that,
Yeah, you could tell right there.
it was a hip roof.
You could tell that addition where that actually the first closest to the window, to the right window, that addition from that on was added on, which actually,
Yeah, could you just give them the real quick?
but that was additionally added on. We don't know exactly. I've been in a home since 1987. So, and actually by code, some of them where it was added on, it just doesn't. And that's one of the reasons why we're wanting to fix it and extend it to where the shed is, just because it's not done correctly. It wasn't done correctly at any point in time.
Actually, the boards that are holding up the roof are connected to a piece of fascia board that's like a 1x1 fascia board. So structurally, it's really in sound and needs to come down.
It's always fun to dissect these things, isn't it? Because they all get kind of, things get cobbled on and added.
Exactly. It's a cobbled on mess, and we kind of see it as a blessing because, I mean, essentially it wasn't done correctly back.
Could you stop there, Mallory? Could you stop there? Okay, so that shows the hip roof from the rear, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I was looking at too. The
Yeah.
part that had been hipped within the little lower, I think you're calling it the shed, the little part that's attached.
Well, the hip part is part of that bathroom that I was saying. When that was added on, they just did that, and it wasn't done correctly. It should have really honestly been when it was added on. When we talked to our contractor, he said whoever did this kind of cobbled it in. It's not even being held correctly. And that was like our biggest concern. I mean, because honestly, it's not done how it should have done, how he said it should be done. So that's why when we decided to extend it, well, we're not extending any further than the actual building is per se, but it would be done correctly.
and it would look more original. It wouldn't have so many layers. It would just be a full extension, and then it would be brought back to, that hip roof, which you can see underneath that first edition, which is the bathroom. And then we, have the window and the door, just, for easy access and whatnot. So ultimately it would look better, having a consistent roof line, and I think it would
Mostly it's just it would make our bathroom, which is the reason why we're doing it, more added space to the ceiling. Right now where it sits, the ceiling height, I can literally touch the ceiling. I'm 5'6", so which I'm not very tall, but that's kind of like the hindrance. That's why when this happened, like I said, it was kind of a blessing in the sky that we can extend it to that point where we'd be able to have the rest of the house. Because from like where that hip, where you guys are saying that part starts, we have 9-foot ceilings throughout the house besides the second floor. But that first floor, they're all throughout the house is 9-foot ceilings, which would be, it would make the house how it should have been, I guess, versus what they did.
Now, on the sketches, let's see, Mallory, can you scroll to where we have the architectural sketches of the proposed, it doesn't matter whether it's Phil's red one or, okay, right there. So the rear, looking from the rear, the note says that the pitch of the new gable roof will match the roof of the house. Is that what
Yes,
the
sir.
plan is?
It would be just exactly the same from the front of the house all the way to the back, the same height. It's not going any higher. It wouldn't be any lower. It'd be the same thing, just how the picture shows on the second picture where the two windows are at, the up and down
Okay,
one.
because here the roof pitch looks shallower than the pitch of the house roof. Is that, am I not
I think-
understanding it?
It might be a slightly different pitch, you know, because honestly, the architect that I hired is a colleague of Amy Haygood's. She recommended her to me, and she did this like in 24 hours for me. So I think it was more of a quick fix, you know, just get the basic idea kind of thing. So I could have something to present, you know, because at that time I was a little crunched for time.
But it'd be exactly how the house is now.
Sure.
Yeah, it would be the same pitch, same siding, same foundation, same everything would be exactly the same. The double hung windows would be the same. And it would just look cohesive front to back.
Because I think if we weren't gonna have the hip roof, at least to my memory, and Phil, you can weigh in on this from last week, or Justin, we actually wanted the pitch to be a little steeper than it shows in that drawing to, I mean, to actually match the
Are-
pitch of the real.
To match the pitch of the house, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, which it would.
Okay.
It would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
it may
do
be
agree
just a
with you.
case of the drawing not showing it the way that it will be, but the
Yeah.
copy block in it saying that it'll state and
Yeah.
match the pitch of the rest of the home is the accurate part.
Exactly.
Maybe I can help this a little bit. Mallory, if you could scroll down a bit back to the photograph of the rear. Next, no, one more. Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess
Okay.
try this one. You've got the pitch on the main portion of the roof, the 2-story portion. That's a steeper pitch than the pitch is on this L piece that comes out. And what
Right.
I'm hearing is they will match the existing pitch on the L portion of this, just simply extend that to a gable end.
Exactly.
Oh, okay, then I did
Well, that would work. That'll
misunderstand.
give you the headspace.
Yes,
Yeah, that'll
ma'am.
give you the headspace you're looking for in there too.
It would match the 9-foot ceilings throughout the house on the first level.
Nice.
And then we get a nice.
No wonder
big
it's kind of a blessing for you. Yeah.
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 We could
Yeah,
barely put, there's just not any headroom. I mean, we got girls and my wife. I mean, when women take showers, they like to kind of do their thing, and there's just no headroom. There's nothing.
Well, nobody wants a stumpy shower, you know, more headspace, the better.
The other
But
thing
even-
this photograph demonstrates is if you look on the 2-story portion, what we called a piece board is that board right there underneath the roof, underneath the eave.
Yes.
Okay.
In your sketch, it does not show any such board, and that, I believe, is what the commission was looking for on the back, and that also carries around so that the clapboards or the siding doesn't go right up to the underside of the
Right.
eave. It goes up to a board, and that makes that.
If you look at that, if you look at the top peak, that's pretty much what it resemble. Like even like the corners on that part of the house. Yeah, it would match that, I guess you could say.
That higher peak is what we're usually using to model our idea of the back. So if that extended frieze board needs to be there, then it would be there on the new addition. That's just a matter of telling the contractor, and when we really sit down and draw the blueprints out, of course it will be there. I don't want it to look different from the front to the back. That just looks silly.
Right, and I think the commission was in looking at and I know it was some quick work that you got done so that you had something to kind of visualize your idea, but I think that's where some of the question came into about, you're right, you wouldn't want it to look differently on the back than the back of that first section looks. So you would want it to match for that cohesiveness. So that makes sense if that's what you're
Yes,
what you're
ma'am.
going after, and that's what we're looking for. So
Okay.
yeah.
What were the other questions, Bill? I didn't pull up that list.
I think it was a window,
Oh, the
I think-
window.
Yep.
and the window would be more lighting because of that back side of the house. We do have one window that's on one side, but it doesn't face the sun where the sun comes up. So that back window is just elongated just enough to get some more lighting, natural lighting in the bathroom, which we're
And the placement of the design that we have of the back, it would be over a shower. So that's why it's where it is and the length of it. Because I think in designing it, there was no real space to add another elongated or like a double hung window. Because of the tile shower and the vanity, and there's going to be a closet and whatnot in there. And that was really the only option, was to put an elongated window above the shower,
just to get more
more
lighting.
natural lighting and to match the other side of the house where the sun porch is going to have that same elongated window.
Would there be any option of having maybe at least one vertical divider in that window? Horizontal windows tend to be associated with kind of more like prairie architecture or low ranch style houses.
On,
So
on,
even
on the left side of the house, if you're looking at that where we're just looking at, there is a window there that is matching, and that's existing.
No, what he's asking is like the elongated window to break it up so it looks more.
The thing is, we're limited to where we could put our shower because of the closet. And so there is nowhere else.
Like to put like a pane in it, like
yeah, I don't mean,
Like
I mean the window would
a mullion,
outline
not to
would be
change the
same.
window.
It would just have maybe a vertical divider in it. It's
Like
some. I mean, I don't know.
That's
what
really
those-
up to, I
Or
guess.
we could put smaller windows.
Yeah,
like
that's
a
really up to our
traditional-
discretions, because there is like, if you're saying like little divider to make a smaller window or kind of have that appearance, that's really, I think,
like a lattice work or something like that. Like, you know how they have the lattice screen or sliding doors and stuff like that, like something that just goes over the window, just to give it the appearance of being divided. Or would you or are you talking about like 3 separate windows and with their own entity?
or just, so it opens and closes.
No.
No, it would be one window. I mean, I'm not familiar with, is this a window like an awning window that opens like kind of out
It's just kind of like a
from the bottom up, or is it not even going to open? Or
It won't open.
It sits high enough. I think it would be a 5 by 5 wide shower, which would be about 4-foot window to 5 foot, depending on what we're able to do, by a foot. So it's literally just on top of the shower just to get light in. It wouldn't be operable, I guess. I mean, it's just for lighting.
Yeah.
Mark, are you asking about a mullion in the window? Is that what you're thinking?
I don't, I don't have a huge, I just was wondering, because I think that was, again, one of the discussions from last time was,
Right.
the horizontal nature of the window. So I was just asking if that was an option to get something that had some divisions in it, but if not,
I'd really like to keep it consistent with the front or the sun porch window. We hadn't discussed or nothing had been approved for any visual dividers in that window. So I think having them in one and not the other, it would just look
yeah,
unsymmetrical.
that's a fair point. I forgot about that. That window is in the porch. Yeah, I remember that now. Yeah.
So they're both going to be facing the rear of the house. So when you're standing at the rear of the house, you'll be able to see both of them simultaneously.
Well, I think the discussion about the freeze board and the pitch of the roof matching the pitch of the existing house kind of cleared up some of our questions about that, since it sounded like those were outstanding.
Okay.
Was there anything else that the commission wanted to discuss or have questions about, or make sure that we got answers to, or gave the Ortizes something that they needed to, think about, or as they kind of go through this process?
That's all that I've recorded.
Could we make an approval conditional on getting a final sketch that shows that freeze board and maybe the 4-inch corner pieces?
As well as the appropriate pitch?
Pardon?
As well as the appropriate pitch?
Yeah, I guess it'd be nice to have a drawing that we really said what we're thinking. I mean, right now we have Phil's kind of sketch over, but I feel like to just say, yeah, we see that you've done what we're asking as far as that freeze board. If we can include that in a proposal, I'm happy to make a proposal.
I think that we can. I mean, especially because it sounds as if the Ortiz family is thinking the same thing that we're talking about. We're just not seeing it in the sketches that they brought forward because of the trying to turn something around quickly so that they had a visual. Does that sound right? I mean, it sounds, Stacy, like that's sort of what you and Lino are saying, that
Yeah, it would be.
we're kind of on the
exactly-
same page, but but the visuals that we're talking, if you're looking just at the visuals, it looks different. But it sounds like what you're talking about is exactly what we are too. So just having a final rendering of that shows that what's in our head is also in yours, I think is a good kind of contingency place to be to move this forward for you.
That's
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. We want it to look like it was always there. So having those architectural pieces in place is part of the, having that originality factor that we're going for.
I think it's going to be a nice change for you.
very.
Yeah, it's been a long road, so we're ready to have a nice big.
I bet you are.
With a bow
Yeah,
back.
I bet you are.
Very ready.
Well, I would move to approve the application for a certificate of appropriateness as submitted and per testimony for the rear demolition and addition at 256 West 10th Street based on local guidelines and the Secretary of State Interior Standard Number 9, that new additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction shall not destroy historic materials that characterize the property. The new work shall be differentiated from the old and shall be compatible with massing, size, scale, and architectural features to protect the historic integrity of the property and its environment. And this is subject to staff approval of a final rendering of the work as per the discussion at our meeting.
I'll support.
Any comments from the commission before we put it to roll? You guys are quiet tonight. Okay, I will start roll call then with approve or deny Mark's motion. So Cook,
Approve?
Fowler. I don't think we haven't, he hasn't joined us, has he?
Yes.
I don't think so. Lambers,
Approve.
Nieves,
Approve.
Relinsky and Shea. I don't see that either one of them has joined us. I am scrolling through everyone's faces. This is Ike and I also approve, so the motion carries.
Perfect.
Great. So
Thank
yeah, thanks for taking the time to go through that with us. I think it's a whole lot better when we have an opportunity to talk to the homeowners and understand exactly what you're looking for, and also that so you understand what kind of things we're looking for. And it sounds like we're all on the same page. So
Correct.
Definitely.
Good.
Perfect. Well,
Thank you.
thank you guys so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you for being so patient and in the time. Thank you.
hey, can't
Good
wait to
luck.
see it. I know you guys can't either.
It's been a road, but we're nearing the end.
We're getting close.
That's a good feeling.
Yes, it is.
Mm.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good night, you guys.
Thank you.
You too. Okay, so with that, we are on to new business. So I'll start with, are the Maxwells with us?
Yes, I'm Jeff Maxwell, and my wife Myra is here with me.
Fantastic. Okay. Hey, and Jean-Pierre joined us too, even better. So welcome everybody. So the first item up is a COA for 203 West 12th Street. So Phil, do you want to take it away for us?
Sure, I can do that. First,
Thank
let me
you.
just ask Mallory a question. I don't see it on my screen. Are you recording?
Yes, we are recording. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
you.
Okay, so 203 West 12th Street. This, I think, is a relatively straightforward application. They are proposing to replace the existing garage door with a door that is illustrated in your materials. If Mallory, if you just want to run to the photos, the photo of the existing garage. Yeah, there's the existing garage. I note in the report that there is that horizontal line that comes down probably the first 18 inches or so of the garage door opening. That is a structural line that is part of the building. Underneath that is where the new garage door will sit. And if you back up to the photograph with the blue doors on it, that right there, that is the character of the door that they are proposing in that space. What they've selected out is a Canyon Ridge carriage house door with details that are noted by circling the details. Door will be primed, final color to match that of the home, which is planned to be repainted this year. Door is constructed with energy efficient insulated steel and faux wood composite cladding and overlay. The door will measure the same as the existing door, which is 96 inches wide and 84 inches tall. And I have not identified any concerns with this application.
So that top piece, the one that was kind of wide and hung down and looked like it was more forward, that's actually a structural
It's
piece.
more of a header. As you're
Okay.
standing inside of the garage and you're looking out of that door, that just simply reduces the amount of headspace inside the garage. So it's not structural per se, it's more cosmetic, but it is all within the lower floor of the garage. There's a ladder inside the garage that'll take you up to the second floor. So the ceiling acts as a floor for the loft area, but that header is not part of the ceiling on the first floor or the floor on the first part. It's just more of cosmetic header.
So it probably
that-
used to have a bigger door, although originally that was probably a big door then, right? Like a barn door kind of a door.
I suspect you're right. It's just that for convenience purposes, they mounted that header on there, and that's where the track is then attached to the ceiling of the first floor. So we want to leave that in place because we want to use that same structure to mount the track for the new door. But yeah, I think you're right. I think it was probably inserted there as more of a modern convenience for a garage door.
Right, so it's not like it was just, it was maybe an infill so that the door that you have there now would actually fit in there. Is that what you're saying? Because that
Right,
was
we
too
don't
big.
want to take the header
Got it.
down. We just want to exactly match the new door with the old door.
Got it. I'm like, yeah, that would be quite an undertaking.
Hello.
Yeah.
Suddenly that's a whole different project. Yeah.
Yeah, we know that the garage is going to need some attention in the future. If you go back to that picture that you showed before, there's a definite list or lean to that building. But because it's so historic, we really don't want to change the building too much, and we haven't really got to that stage in our renovation or improvement of the home to focus on the garage. I think we're going to take baby steps and just focus on the garage door first.
I think the point you get to dealing maybe with some structural issues or whatever the challenge becomes on this, it's interesting to note the different widths of the clapboards.
Yep.
The upper left and wrapping around the door are all narrower than immediately to the left of the door. So they're probably, this could have even been a larger door width-wise as well originally, and things were infilled. But anyway, that's
Right, and they might have infilled on the left side where the light is now. That
Yeah,
whole side could have been
perhaps.
infill.
Yeah, because what you'd expect is the door was probably centered below, a wider door was centered below the peak, it's
Mhm.
offset now because they made it just a modern garage door size. But yeah, I'll bet you're right. I bet it went just as far to the left as the spacing on the right side.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm not a structural engineer, but when they changed the facade of that building, something went wrong because there's a twist to that building, and then it also leans to the right. So if you could look down that roof line has a curve to it, and then it also tilts down to the right. That's why really it's going to take a lot more work and a whole new COA to change the building. We just want to basically fix the garage door because the door that's there now, it doesn't close completely and it won't open correctly. So there are times when you try to open the door and it gets stuck. You have to crawl underneath and you get dirty because you have to roll around on the pavement in order to open the garage door from the inside. So it's a little weird. It's a little awkward. So we want something that's functional as well as aesthetically pleasing.
Is that upstairs door panel just like a piece of plywood, or does it actually have vertical slats? I'm just curious.
It's just,
It's an actual door. You can
Okay.
open it.
Yeah, cool. One of the more interesting garages in the historic district.
it's very cool. My wife has been up there and she found some old woodworking tools and things like that. So it's very cool.
Oh, that is neat.
Well, we definitely support garage doors with windows in the historic district. It's nice to get back some windows. I think a lot of the original garage doors had windows or carriage house doors, and so it's nice to see that. So thank you for working at that angle.
And Phil, what did you say the material of the door, the new door is?
Yeah, it's a steel door with a fake wood composite cladding on it.
Okay.
So it's a metal.
Okay.
metal
I know the existing one is fiberglass, right?
It's either fiberglass or plastic, and it's a hollow core. There's a hole in the front, so you can stick your index finger in there, and that's how I know it's hollow, because it needs some love. It needs to be replaced.
I do not really have any questions. Does anybody on the commission have any questions? Well, I don't know if anybody feels compelled to either ask any more questions or to make a motion. I, as chair, cannot.
I can,
Go ahead.
okay, I'll move to approve the application for a certificate of appropriateness as submitted in per testimony for garage door replacement at 203 West 12th Street, based on the local guidelines in the Secretary of Interior Standard Number 9. New additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction shall not destroy historic materials that categorize the property. The new work shall be differentiated from the old and shall be compatible with the massing, size, scale, and architectural features to protect the historic integrity of the property and its environment.
Thanks, Justin. Does anybody have a second for us?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any other questions before we put it to a roll call? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and put it to call then. Approve or deny, as I call your name, please. Cook,
Approve.
Fowler, I thought I saw Jean-Pierre pop on.
Approve.
Hello. Lambert,
Approve.
Nieves,
Approve.
I believe Berlinski and Shea are both still absent as I scroll through smiling faces. This is Ike and I also approve, so motion carries. Can't wait to see what color you're gonna paint your home.
Yeah, we're meeting with an exterior painter tomorrow, so we're hoping to get that project rolling this summer.
Yay.
Exciting stuff.
Thank you so
Great.
much, folks. We appreciate you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Yeah. All right, next up on our hit parade of the agenda. Is this the next one? Sorry, I'm trying to look at this on two different screens here.
At 240 West 11.
You are correct. So a COA for 240 West 11, Jacqueline Ten Brink is Jacqueline or Kevin?
Yeah,
with
that's
us?
me.
Oh, great.
That's
Hi,
me.
Kevin. How are you?
Good, you?
Good. Welcome. Thanks for hanging out in your car and waiting for us as we kind of talk through all these things.
Yeah, no problem. This is my first Zoom call, so I don't even know if it's looking at me.
Oh, we can see you, which means you can see us. So
Yeah, we
Okay.
can
all
hear
good.
you.
Yeah, this is great. Phil,
good.
do you want to tee it up for Kevin for us?
Sure, this is 240 West 11th Street. It's in the Washington Boulevard Historic District. This again is a pretty straightforward application. It is to replace the front steps, and then in the process of replacing them, also add a handrail. Both are illustrated. This was very close to an administrative review. The steps are very close in character to the existing steps, but they are a little bit different. And because of the handrail, I'm bringing this to you as an item. We have identified no concerns about this application. The steps are concrete, as you can see in that illustration, and there is a photograph of a similar handrail as well in the packet.
Yeah, the steps are almost identical to what's there now.
Pretty close, yeah.
And the handrail, is that the metal frame one here?
Yes.
What was different? I'm just curious, Phil, what was different what was different about it? I understand the handrail issue, but was there anything different about the steps?
If you go back to the photographs, you can see, that's a single solid piece, well, hollow underneath, but
right.
You go back to the original or the front photograph and it is hard to see in this.
They
It's-
have that overhang more like a wooden step on the new ones. Is that right, Phil? I mean, they're molded with a slight overhang on the
Site
step.
nosing, yeah. But
Whereas
it's,
the original ones didn't have that bull nose, it looks like. It just looks like they're, at a 90. Is that accurate?
They do angle a little bit. They just, they're the ones that you can set on top of the supports, and the supports are actually falling apart. So it's not going to support it much longer. So you can actually take it off in like 3 different sections.
Oh,
So the step and the riser is separate 2 times there. The new one is solid, as you can see.
all one.
yes.
But in the context of, the ability to repair things, that's about as close, a determination as, it's replacement of existing in my mind. But because of the handrail, I've included it for you.
And the handrail, will that be painted?
It's going to be black, yes.
Okay.
That's something that they add on to the step after they deliver it.
Sure. And then does the handrail, I'm trying to go back up. Does the handrail mount? I can't see with the whole image. Does the handrail mount to the house or does it only mount to the step?
It mounts to the steps.
Okay, so it doesn't mount to the house itself.
Right. It just mounts on the left side of the steps.
Okay. So it'll mount on the side that the door handles on as well.
On the left there, yep.
Okay.
Yep. I actually have to move that mailbox over about 2 inches in order for it to fit.
That was my next question.
Yep.
So if I
Yep.
can think of that mailbox, you have to reach over the railing to get to it.
Yeah.
If you even
Yep.
could. Okay.
I'm actually thinking about having her mail delivered to my house instead because she's 86 and I have hospice going in there 4 times a week right now, plus myself.
I am very familiar with that. We've had that with my father, which is why I was not at the last meeting. So I'm sorry. I
Right.
know that was a real challenge.
Yep.
Does the commission have any questions? I'm assuming in terms of color for the stairs, are there options or is it just kind of one color option that you have available, or is the color option fairly close to what's there now?
That's it right there. I'm actually, it's coming from Terry's Precast on the south side of Holland there.
Yep. So it's that gray, it's that more gray one. It looks like
Correct,
one's
yeah.
kind of, okay, one's
Just
kind
the
of gray
two.
and one's kind of white.
It's a 2-step. They're actually the same color, it's just the shade was different.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Yep. I'm sure over time it'll look like the other ones, but
I bet it will. Give it a season.
yep, yep.
But as a homeowner without a handrail, I think that's a nice addition.
Yeah, and it's gonna be after she passes the house, I inherit with my cousin, and at some point we have to sell it. And in order to sell a house, they probably want a handrail anyway. So
They will. Yeah, I like the simplicity of the handrail too, personally. I really do not have any further questions. I don't know if any of the commissioners do.
No.
If not, I will move to approve the application for a certificate of appropriateness as submitted in per testimony for the front step replacement and handrail addition at 240 West 11th, based on the local guidelines and Secretary of Interior Standard Number 9, New additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction shall not destroy historic materials that characterize the property. The new work shall be differentiated from old and shall be compatible with the massing, size, scale, and architectural features to protect the historic integrity of the property and its environment.
Thank you, Mark. Do we have a second?
Second.
I think that was that you, Jean-Pierre, with the second? It looked that way
Yes.
to me. Great. Any questions before, any last comments or anything that needs to be added before we move on to roll call? Okay. I'll start again with you, Mark. Cook,
Approve.
Fowler. I see your lips moving, Jean-Pierre, but I didn't hear you.
Approve.
There we go. Lambers,
Approve.
Nieves,
Approve.
Relinsky and Shea are still not here. This is Ike and I also approve, so motion carries.
Good. Thanks, Kevin.
I think we're all good.
right.
Kevin, you're all set. Thanks for sticking
All
with us.
All right. Thank you very much for your time. Have a good night.
You
Take
too.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Hello, Bob.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. Okay.
I gotta say, it's
We are-
pretty nice to have Crust 54 next door, so.
Oh, I'm so close.
Oh. Yeah.
My goodness. Okay, so Phil, do you want to take away the COA for 261 Van Raalte Avenue for Bob and Nancy?
Yep. They are proposing, this is in the Washington Boulevard Historic District. You've recently approved fencing on this property. And they are back with the desire to reside the property, replace windows, and put a covering on the front steps. More specifically, they are proposing to replace the existing aluminum siding with vinyl siding. They propose a Mitten Building Products Century 44 Series vinyl siding, and they provided some information that illustrates that. It would have a 4-inch reveal effectively on the clapboard, and a cedar grain texture is what's being proposed. Contractor has indicated the owner prefers horizontal siding on the front elevation. You'll see there's kind of a board and batten sort of a, yeah, if there's a photograph, that may be the, if there's a photograph of the house, it might show it better than this sketch does.
Yeah,
you can
there should be. Yeah, there we go.
these. Yeah, if you take the middle one in the second row, you can see the bay window that projects out. That's a sort of a board and batten kind of a vertical siding that runs around that. And there you see it even better on that one. So the owners prefers to go with a horizontal siding that would be similar to the rest of the house. Let's see, I have received samples, but the contractor did give me locations where the different materials have been used. I did not get a chance to look at the siding. The second part of the application is recovering the front steps with a concrete skim coat. Again, I have not seen any examples of that particular sort of application of a skim coat. But as Bob, I think, indicated in the application, they're looking for a smooth edge for a slightly more contemporary look to those front steps. And I think there's probably a closer photograph there. You begin to see it.
Yeah.
And
So yeah, replacing some of the missing pieces. There are some elements that are missing. So restoring
can
it to
see.
the original
Yep.
shape and just coating it.
Yeah. And then the third part of it is replacing the existing wood windows. The owner's proposing a Provia window package. It's an Endure double hung EN 600 window series, which I have not prior to this afternoon, I have not seen that window. I did get a chance to go by and look at a house down on Songbird Lane that they've replaced 6 windows, I think. And maybe at the tail end of this, Mallory may have those photographs. She's probably got to jump to a different file. Okay. Here you sort of see the side-by-side example of what Bob has on his house is on the right, and the example that was on Songbird Lane, according to the supplier who would be doing the work. This is an example of the proposed window that they are requesting.
Are the windows currently, like, are those windows currently wood, Bob?
Well, yes, inside are wood, outside, where the storms are attached are aluminum framed. And evidently that's where most of the moisture and the breakdown occurred, when those aluminum frames that were holding either the screens or the storm windows became loose at the joints. There was an attempt, I'm sure it wasn't from a previous owner. We've been in there for 4 years. The previous owner did some upgrades to certain parts of the house, but there was so much moisture that came through the storm outside that it just kind of rotted away the wood on the inside. So there are some that the whole wood frame would have to be, it's not like covering it with glaze and putty and stuff like that. It's just inside the storm windows. It was it wasn't even caulk. It was siliconed and just a mess. So, I mean,
Yeah, just inside where the
lot that would
storm
have
attaches to this, like inside, are you talking about inside, like where the storm comes down against the wood sill, sort of, or the, on the outside
Yep,
of where, on the
pretty
outside
close
of
to
where
where
the wood
where you were
window
in the
is?
top.
Yeah,
Yeah, right in that junction right there was either, badly siliconed, or it wasn't even there anymore. And it just took and rotted the sill right out. So,
okay.
so the outside of the storms would have to be replaced to be of any use whatsoever, even if you could restore some of the wood. So, yeah, and that middle blue, on the second floor right there, right there is, I can't even there's not a screen or a storm there because it just won't hold it. The tracks are bent and just, you can't do anything with it. So that framework would have to come out. So.
Yeah, as I've conveyed to Bob, ordinarily when windows are to be replaced, the first question is, can you repair the existing windows when they're the original windows on the house? We haven't seen sort of an inventory of the windows and what condition they're in and that sort of thing. So I can't really evaluate that. I would say that the windows that I saw down on Songbird Lane appear to be very nice windows, and the dimensions, for instance, the meeting rail on the window seems narrow. It seems comparably narrow to the meeting rail on the home. So some of those dimensional kinds of aspects seem very similar. The detailing of on the existing house, the aluminum that was put over the windows doesn't reveal like the space between the windows that this photograph shows. So there are some differences ultimately in appearance between the windows. And there's a question, there's another house on Van Rolte on a corner property that was recently renovated. And there's a question in my mind about the reflectivity on the windows, or if there's any tinting that's intended, or if there's any extra film that will be on the windows for whatever reasons. I think the other house that was done with all of our approvals turned out to be looking, I would say, more contemporary than perhaps the existing house looked. And I'm just wondering the impact on what those details are like on this particular window.
Uh, yeah, I mean, looking at this picture is the first time I've seen that. That would be, you know, I would rather have less of a gap between them from what I'm seeing there. So if
Yeah.
there's that choice,
Between
Yeah.
those two windows.
yeah, what looks to
Yeah.
be like vented or something. I don't know what that might be, but yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know the reason for that much of a separation there either.
No, that just looks like it just catch certain things and just look, you know. Anyways, I would ask Verizon to give me another choice to have something look a little bit, you know, cleaner and simpler. That's all. I've talked to a friend of mine who restored the wood windows in his house in the historic district. He came over and looked. He goes, "Yeah, I might be able to help you." But then he saw a couple of them and said, "Yeah, I can't, you know, that's just something that's out of his expertise and, you know, would have to be reframed," I think, he said.
All right, so how do we want to slice and dice this up a little bit? Because I know we'll need to talk through each of the request points that are being made here. So
There were some pictures I'd like to, you know, kind of go back to when it comes to the siding on how poorly a job was. I think I gotta scroll up a little bit. And there were, yeah, so some of these right there. Oh, yep. Okay, so above the pitch of that, the bump up right there in the middle. I mean, that looks like it was cut with tin snips or something like that. If you saw how that was, you know,
looks like it's laying on the roof.
it's just a jagged edge, you know, just really poorly done. And then this, you know, picture to the left is the, you know, the corner things are popping off, and I don't know. I don't know what we could do to fix those other than to caulk them down again or something like that, because it won't hold a nail or anything. So,
Right.
Siding was done obviously before the, you know, 2001, before Washington Boulevard Historic District was there, but not a great job. You know.
Bob, do you know any of the history of the vertical siding on the front?
I don't.
No, okay.
Yeah, I don't know why that was a decision. Yeah, no idea.
Usually it's because it's easier than trying to do horizontal. Maybe we've seen that on a number of homes where there's any sort of a bump out or a bay window. I've seen a lot that have been done vertical versus horizontal just because it's easier.
And probably cost, you know, less costly because you can use bigger pieces, you know, instead of having to cut into smaller pieces. I don't know.
What's interesting, I find on most houses is that even old houses, it's not unusual to have a different kind of detailing under the windows of the bay, but not on the two sides on, you know, like normally you'd see the horizontal side run right up to the bay and then maybe a different treatment under the windows. Our house has that. We have a square bay window, but it has angled siding, you know, kind of on the base below the windows, but it's narrow right up to the point of the bump out. If you look at, there's a house that's 73 West 14th that has this kind of a feature. And again, it's normal siding all the way up to the bay. And then it has just a plain, I didn't look at it closely, but maybe even stucco or something underneath the bay window. Are you proposing you would like the narrow siding to wrap around under the window as well, or just come up to the bay window area and then do something different underneath, or what are you thinking?
No, everything horizontal, basically, you know, into the gable part of it and everything, you know, no shake, you know, no,
Yeah.
no differentiation.
But underneath the
Yeah.
bay window, you would just continue the horizontal siding. It wouldn't be
That's,
different.
yeah,
Okay.
yes.
Because this shows
Good.
it vertical, the image right there. But so it would
Yeah,
be,
that was done. Yeah, that was done by someone. We were trying to get an idea of what the house would look like in a darker color. So she didn't
Mhm.
really change anything. That's just for a color, example that we had done.
okay, so you're not intending to run the siding still vertical on either side of the window. It would all be horizontal.
Yeah, all be
Okay.
horizontal.
If you took the siding off, do you know, is the original siding underneath the aluminum siding?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think if there was aluminum before they put this on, they probably took that off and maybe put down some, depending on what year it was, they might have put down some sort of insulating material or something like that, But there's not another layer of siding over the top of it.
Okay,
And they
so,
wouldn't put the vinyl over the top of this.
no, right, I thought
Yeah.
if there was siding underneath the aluminum siding, which we sometimes find in the old houses, it would be interesting to see what the original treatment was and whether they did something different under the bay window or not. But I mean, it's not like
Oh.
we mandate that people, uncover it and then make it just like it was, but sometimes it can be an interesting thing and give you some clues to how you might want to do it, but.
Well, I know, there used to be a house across the street, right, Phil?
Mhm.
And then the city bought that property, and I knew the woman that owned that, Diane Garoni. She's still alive, and I know her sister Judy Hillman very well. I might be able to get some information from her, but I think I just want it simple and fresh, just a fresh, simple approach to the house.
Yeah, Judy used to be on the Historic District Commission years ago, so she'd probably get all
Yeah.
excited about a little research.
She's the one that did the cover overlay of the house.
Okay,
Which
sure.
she
Oh,
just,
cool.
yeah, she did that with a little vellum, paper, just put
Yeah.
it over the top of the house.
Cool.
Mm.
Is the intent from that sketch, it looked like the intent is to remove the shutters?
Yes.
Okay.
Most definitely. Yeah. That was also her suggestion, to lose the shutters.
Lose the
Keep the
shutters.
trim white. Yeah. Keep the trim white, lose the shutters.
Okay, so I think we should probably break this down then. Do we want to start with the siding first?
And
Mr.
with the
Kendrick?
siding, that would include the notion of making the front all horizontal siding, right? Is that? I mean, everything to do with the
Yes.
siding. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, just flat. There's a thing called Dutch slap, which is a little bumpy thing, and we don't want that, just flat pieces. They do have a little grain to them, and they're an option of a 4 or a 4.5 inch width. Or height, should say.
Right. Vertical siding. And Phil, you said you have or have not received a sample of siding?
Not.
Okay.
They just delivered some of those samples to me today.
Okay.
So it's something I could drop off as well. Well, it looks just like that. There it is. Very little. You can see there's a very little grain to it. We wanted the one with the least amount of grain.
Mm-hmm. And that's the color you're proposing, the dark gray?
Darker than this.
Got it. Darker than that. Okay. We have no, I mean, we have no say over color. I was curious for my own edification.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it kind of looks like what Judy's saying, but there was a little bit, that showed a little bit more green than we would hoped, but very similar to that. Yeah.
So Kim, are you kind of thinking of a motion on each of the 3 points, or what are, when you said break it down, what are you thinking?
I think what works best when they're, at least in my experience, and Mark, if you feel differently, definitely let me know. But I feel like if we break it down into 3, like for example, there are 3 things here to consider. If we break it down into 3 different motions, it allows the homeowner, if something's an easy one for us to be like, yep, that makes perfect sense, move on. Whereas if we've got one that maybe needs a little bit of follow-up, or we've got additional questions, it allows the homeowner to keep moving forward with certain aspects of the COA proposal without holding them up in all areas of the COA proposal. So that's where I see, I think we've done a good job when we've broken things down so that it keeps things moving forward. And then we only need to come back and focus on the couple of things if we find there are questions that we have or things that are unresolved yet.
Sounds good. What about if we talk about the steps, because that also seems fairly straightforward.
Yep. If you have no more questions about the siding, and if no one else on the commission does, then I think we can move down into the next one, which is the concrete skim coat on the steps, especially because it looks as though, Bob, what you're working to do is to, rather than have to do a full replacement, but patching the areas where you've got missing material, and then kind of cleaning it all up for aesthetically cleaning it all up, but making it functionally cleaned up too.
Yeah, it's similar to the bottom 3 pictures, although that shows probably a little bit more aggregate, of a finish than I talked about with Troy Lemon, he's Cornerstone Decorative Concrete. And he's a pretty good artist with concrete, but this time we're not testing them too much. We just want to like a medium gray with a, with a not sharp edged. I didn't really want a sharp edged edge to, especially that top part,
And it might be hard to, the sharp edge and aggregate usually don't go together, right?
Right.
So
right.
If you're not looking for a sharp edge and you're not looking for aggregate, you're just looking for it to be somewhat eased then.
Right. I mean, I can see, in my head, I'm thinking, okay, you have to put a, concrete form around it, pour some concrete, polish it down, or I guess you polish it, you could call it, but just to make it simple, smooth, and a bit more modern, I'd say.
So as you understand the process, they would build forms around the existing and then sort of pour maybe even as much as a ½ inch or an inch of concrete that sort of fills everything in, plus makes it all smooth. Is that kind of how you're understanding the process?
Yeah, it even seems like, well, maybe with this one close up, it even looks like that head process might have been done before on some of the old pictures of the steps there, because there is a kind of a coating that is chipped away to reveal, in some cases, even almost like a brick pattern underneath. So whatever they're going to put over the top would hopefully be strong enough. It would have to be more than 1/8 of an inch. Otherwise, you're just going to chip away again, I would think.
And clearly they know how to do that without changing the appropriate rise of the stairs. They must be able to accommodate for that.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I just
He asked if I wanted to replace the columns and stuff. But yeah, and there's that little, there's room to step up to the door. There's room for it to be, slightly added to, I suppose.
Got it. And so it would also then smooth out those sides too. I'm just looking at the middle picture, top and bottom. Because I think what I'm seeing a little bit is that kind of brick-ish pattern that you were talking about in the side, maybe. I'm not sure, maybe that's just.
No, I think that is, kind of a pattern. And on that left side, you can see that, the little chunk overhang has come off there. You can see it
Right.
on the right side of the step. You can't see it on the left side of the step, So that protrusion would be replaced. On the right side, there's also, some pieces missing going along the right side toward the door, which needs to be, an edge, just like that protrusion. It might be a 2-inch edge to it that cracked off.
Yeah, nope, I can see the photos definitely
Yeah.
show that.
Yeah, right where the arrow is, you can see where that edge is missing right back
Yep.
there. Yeah.
It's amazing to me that they can do that. Anyway, it's just cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah,
It avoids you having to replace the whole stair and have that either repoured or formed.
Yeah. I mean, the meeting with him took all of 20 minutes, and he said, "What do you want?" And I said, "Oh, I want this. Don't, you don't really have to change or reinvent anything. I just want it to be the shape that it was before, and, without any seams or patterns or textures, So that's the easiest. Like when you're talking about the 3 things, I mean, that's the easiest that could be easily separated from the other projects. The other 2 projects almost need to be considered from a time perspective as being done pretty much close to the same time.
I want to make sure we're giving this, due time too, but I don't know if, sorry, I can't talk and type as I try to blow this up a little bit. Not my forte. Phil, I'd like you to take a look at the sighting, because I think that would be helpful, especially given other sighting not that we ever do anything as a standard for something else. No 2 projects are the same. They're kind of like snowflakes. So, but it would be good. I think it would be good for you to take a look at the siding. The cement stairs seem pretty straightforward to me, especially given the ability to skim coat the existing ones and not have to change it drastically. So that's kind of in line with what's already there. I don't know, Mark, if you feel differently about that.
Nope.
I know a little bit about concrete, but not a ton.
It's heavy.
Just enough to be dangerous on my own house.
Well, and seriously, to change it, to me, it's just like, what's the point in trying to redesign something,
That works.
Use what's there. I mean, unless it was deteriorated to the part where, it had to be taken out, removed, then that would be different.
So I don't know if there are parts of these that anybody feels comfortable making a motion on, at least part of it, if we are going to break this down. And I don't know if we want to go into talking about the windows next, or if there are things that anybody feels comfortable making a motion on or having further discussion on, the first 2 before we go on to the third. Windows are always sort of I would say that not our Achilles heel, but they always require a lot of, and need a lot of discussion. So
I would move to approve the application for a certificate of appropriateness as submitted per testimony for the siding replacement and the front step resurfacing at 261 Vinralty Avenue based on local guidelines and the Secretary of Interior Standard Number 9. No additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction shall not destroy historic materials that characterize the property. The new work shall be differentiated from the old and shall be compatible with massing, size, scale, and architectural features to protect the historic integrity of the property and its environment. And I would add this would be staff, subject to staff approval of the siding sample.
Phil, are you good with that?
Yep, that's fine.
Okay. Do we have a second, anyone?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further clarification needed on these 2 points? Or any additions that we want to add before we move on to roll call for these, for points A and B?
I just realized, do we need to specify that it's okay to put vertical or horizontal siding all the way around the front of the house? I guess the application says that, so.
The application says that the photos submitted, even though we understand and it's recorded, because Bob explained that the images that were provided as a color study rather than to represent the boards to the left and the right of the bay window continuing to run vertical, but instead they will be running horizontal. So I feel like what was in the request is the horizontal, so we're probably good.
Okay.
Unless somebody feels differently.
And I think Mark stated as per what was submitted and the testimony.
Yeah. Then we are good there. If there isn't any other discussion, we can at least vote on points A and B.
I'm sorry, I missed who supported that?
Stephanie, I thought.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yep, I did.
Steph, was that you? Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
I only see so many little faces at a time, so it's I just want to make sure I'm not missing anybody. Jay, I saw you're here, so welcome. I just didn't say anything a while ago. Okay, then I'll start the roll call. Cook,
Approve.
Fowler,
Approve.
Lambers,
Approve.
Nieves,
Approve.
Rolinski and Shea. I'm looking real quick. I don't think either one of them are here. Nope. This is Ike and I also approve. So the motion for points A and B in the COA carry.
Okay.
So Bob, we're 2/3 of the way there.
Great. And I would drop off the samples that were given to me to Phil. Phil, is that okay? That
Yeah,
sound good?
sure. That's
That'd be
fine.
great.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about windows. So the COA requests to replace the existing wood windows, and I think I saw there were 16 of them. Is that all the windows on the? Bob? Is that all the windows on the home?
Except for the basement windows, yes.
Okay. And does that include the windows in the bay as well?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And how many of the windows are as damaged as the pictures of the upstairs? I mean, are they all like that, or is it like 2 or 3, or?
It's probably, I would say, more than half, and some of them are just like, yeah, this could probably be okay, because the outside, like I say, the outside storm system actually, maybe it was because it was on the south side of the house, some parts of the house just get a little bit more direct wind and things
Sure.
like that, and just
Yeah.
tend to deteriorate, the framing and stuff like that. And so I would say that the windows on the south side of the house are in better condition than the west side of the house is not great. And neither is the east side of the house. But I guess you'd almost have to see it to see what I'm talking about when it comes to just the wood just rotted away. I mean, there's pieces of wood that just, you can't restore that piece of wood. That
No,
has to come out.
I
It has to
totally
be
get that.
replaced.
Yeah, I have an old house with old windows, so I know just what you're talking about. We had to do our storm windows. We just had to trash and start over to make wooden storm windows because the panes couldn't even be put in, held into the storm window, no matter how much silicone you piled onto them. So I get it.
Yeah.
Me too. Those window images look familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if somebody had done, and years ago had done something with the storm windows, it probably wouldn't be in near as bad a shape it is now. But whether they were handy people or do-it-yourselfers, but there's some ugly silicone work there too that I basically I have to leave in. I was actually kind of scraping. I'm going, I can't take that out. Heck, then I'd be exposed to the outside again. So I'm gonna have to do something before. Hopefully, I want to get this done before next winter for sure.
So our goal is usually to replace like for like. So I will
Right.
be honest that the best case scenario from a preservation standpoint is to replace wood windows with wood windows. So, so I know that gives a number of us heartburn when it's not, and I don't know if that was anywhere in your consideration as you were looking at other windows to replace these with.
Well, I mean, I'd asked around like who restores wood windows. I got a couple of answers. Nobody's available now, anyways, to do them. So, and I guess with the price of lumber and stuff like that, are they going to be more than $1,000, to replace each window? And more than half the people I talked to said they can't even predict what it would cost, between the craftsmen and the supplies. So,
but what about replacing wood for wood? Like I know Marvin, for example, makes a window. There are a couple of other manufacturers that also make wood windows that would be appropriate to that. And I think one of the things we would probably need regardless is a window schedule.
I don't know what that is, but you can tell me.
If when windows are getting replaced, because I'm betting that not all the windows on your home are the exact same size.
Right.
So usually it's a window schedule shows, if you kind of like look at your home and, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all your windows, and then what the window would be replaced with size wise, because I don't know that this Provia window package, do they actually have windows that are the exact same size of the ones you have now, or what changes, what happens to those dimensionally? So that's something to take into consideration too.
Well, they came out and they measured all the windows and they gave me,
So they may have
sheets
given
that
you
look like
that.
this. Yeah. So this is something that's not in your packet. And Phil, I don't know if they shared that with you when they
believe
sent
so.
you whatever,
Yeah, I don't have any breakdown of different window sizes or anything like that.
Yeah. So I've got pages of,
Yep, window for
each
window, right.
window, and it's dimension. Yeah. So 2 at 61 by 61, 59 wide, 60 high. 72 wide, 64 high. Yeah. So they've got dimensions of everything on this page, which I'd be happy to make a copy of. But I don't know what that, as far as scheduling and stuff like that, what that would do on how it would make it easier to make these windows.
In a size like for like, it's that's sometimes in a couple inches makes a big difference. So are they quoting you replacement windows at the exact size of your existing windows, knowing that they're assuming that all the windows are going to be replaced? Are they replacing them all with exactly the same size, or with something that's standard and close to it? Because I'm sure that all your windows aren't or I would be surprised maybe if all your windows were identical size.
Well, by these, what they call drawings, you know, that they took from measuring the windows, there might be two of them the same size, but that's it. All the rest of them are all different sizes. Some within an inch, some within 4 to 5 inches. So I'm not sure what window people do when they come out and measure. I know they were measuring front to back, side to side without the trim that holds the windows in. So, I mean, they're not changing the size of the hole. I guess I don't know how to.
The question, I think, Bob, is it your impression that they're custom making the windows to exactly replace what's there? Or are they gonna say, well, you've got a 59 by 62 window and we've got a, 50 by 60 and that's close enough and we'll shim it out or do whatever. I mean, I think that's what we're trying to ask.
Yeah. I would guess, I would guess not by looking at this. And of course, that's not what we asked them to do either. But
No,
I wasn't really.
You didn't ask them to replace them exactly, or you did?
I did not ask them, as part of the requirements, they have to be really, we talked about, actually sealing the windows, making sure, the weatherproofing and stuff like that around with the windows was good and stuff like that. That's basically, the weather's not going to come through the glass. It's going to come through around the edges.
Yeah.
So,
Sure.
so I'm
We want them to
hoping
work.
they know what they're doing as far as that. Yeah.
So when you're looking at
yeah,
that,
judging all these. Yeah, like I say, everything is different. 59 by 60, 59 by 64, 72 by 64, 56 by 55, 27 by 45. Seems like a lot of odd sizes to me. So
maybe
I
that's
would say
something
that they're
Phil,
custom.
maybe it's something Phil could look at and figure out if they're proposing exact replacements or some just standard infill.
Yeah, because Phil has talked to Justin. Justin has sent us both, information packets, to some degree, and Phil probably didn't get the drawings that I'm looking at, but that should be easy enough to, get two people together instead of, 10 people together. So.
Yep.
And I guess maybe to follow up a little bit on Kim's notion would be, is there a wooden equivalent thing that would be available, that at least to look at what that would be, as a side-by-side comparison.
Mm-hmm. I don't imagine as people that do wood do all the other materials. So is there somebody that's local that could be recommended?
For wood windows?
For wood window replacements.
I can tell you that we use Zealand lumber and our windows are all Marvin when we've had to replace on the back of our house.
And Marvin is the manufacturer of the wood. Yeah.
But we've had other ones like Phil, I know you've got some samples in the office there, but you have other windows that are wood with other cladding on them that I know are in there used to be the little window like cutaway things in there. I don't know if there are any of those still floating around or if those have all gone back.
There are a few of those. I'm not sure which I'd point to, but you just opened up sort of the next level of window, which is a wood window that has cladding on it. And
right.
Different window yet. So there are options. I can look at the sheets that you have and kind of just take a quick look at the house and identify, pick a couple of windows and say, okay, what are the dimensions? And we can measure them. Yeah, it looks like they've got the dimensions right to what we're expecting them to be, to a full window. Getting on to beyond that, if the decision has, if you're comfortable with the decision going from wood to something else, or from existing to a wood or a replacement window of some type, then we've got to kind of make sure whichever type of window you decide is appropriate, that they can do the same thing you're talking about with the vinyl windows, that they can fabricate them to fit the existing openings and be as identical to the existing windows as possible.
I guess the last question to add to this is, do you, when it comes to the expense, do you spend 20% of the value of your house on new windows? You know what I mean? Or 10% or 15%, and so I'm willing to explore other options, but then time and money, two biggest things, we did it in wood, but they couldn't do it till next year. Wouldn't be too thrilled about that, but so.
Just on that note, Bob, the house that I visited on Songbird Lane, they had 6 windows ordered to be replaced. They've replaced 5 of them, I understand, and they're still waiting for a 6th, and it's been hard for them to get. I don't know how long it's been, but it's been hard for them to get the last window in. Maybe it's the contractor they're working with. It's different than yours. I don't know what the names are. Maybe it's just supply is difficult right now, but just something to kind of put in the back of your mind.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I've heard, and going forward, this is just the first step of the process until the other shoes drop, and availability and the time it takes, scheduling for the contractor too. So I'm not really looking forward to that part of it either.
No, I'm sure not.
So,
Maybe the other thing I would say, Bob, is that if I get that the wood stuff could be a more expensive option, but if maybe it would also influence whether you replaced every single window or said, well, really, only half of them are so bad they need to be replaced, and then you'd replace those with the wood and then not replace the other half. If I'm just picking numbers, and I don't know what the circumstances are, but we've done that in our house where we said, okay, yeah, if I was going to have somebody in and just do all vinyl, fine, but if I'm trying to save the wood windows, these are the 5 that really I can't fix, and so I'm going to have those replaced, and then just restore the other ones because they don't need as much work. So I don't know, that might be one option.
Yeah, it's interesting, but then the storms, whatever is used as a storm window, has to be replaced or have to work, or you're just going to rot out new windows as well.
No, yeah, so, that's totally true. Yep, you're right.
Yeah, you gotta those things have to be replaced and covered, and that's the outside. That's what is most apparent to everybody that's looking at the house is the outside of it. So you can't keep the same storm frames structure that's in there. At least, especially the ones on the north side of the house and the east side of the house have to go, so it doesn't get easier.
No, I totally get it.
Yeah,
but it may be it may end up being that's the decision that may not get easier, but it might end up being a cost decision too. I mean, it's another option to consider.
Yeah. Well, I am willing, I'm open to have, a little powwow if Phil and Justin, and I, looked at the house inside and out and just say, okay, look at this, look at that. Justin could answer some of Phil's questions that he posed just a little while ago. And then I could go, further in depth and to say, okay, well, what's going to happen on the outside of this if we don't replace, with vinyl? So, And maybe Justin's company can do it, and maybe they can't. I don't know. I mean, I like them, but, and I'd like to give them the business, but, what do you, would that solve anything, Phil? Is just to kind of look at what, what I see and what Justin has seen for you guys?
Well, I'm certainly open to do that with you.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily narrow the options of which way you go. In terms of a wood replacement, a wood cladded replacement, or vinyl replacement.
Yeah.
I think there are options, and well, if I give you, sorry.
Yeah. But if I, and knowing myself, if I make 3 calls to the only people that can replace wood windows, and they say, yeah, not this year, pal, I'll be back next month,
Well,
saying,
any
okay.
window company, I think what we've found is that I don't think we've come across, and Phil, tell me if this is incorrect. I don't think we've come across any like window company that hasn't been able to install wood windows. They can pretty much access a host of different manufacturers. From what I know, there might be some that do more of it than others. But I don't know that there are any that, and maybe there are some that just don't, just like there might be other ones that don't install anything but wood windows. I don't know, but we've seen a lot of people come to HDC working with different builders and with a variety of windows.
I generally would agree with you, Kim. The only caveat I'd throw on that is that this is just an unusual time. The last 6 months and probably moving forward are an unusual time in terms of building supplies and.
Oh yes, definitely. The last
all of
year
that.
has
So,
made things very difficult.
Yeah. So.
So of course, I think that it seems like those 2 projects, or if not simultaneous, have to be done, pretty close to each other, windows and siding. I mean,
Yeah, one impacts the other. So they're not, I get it. You can't do them in vacuums from each other. But I think unless somebody on the commission feels differently, I still think it might be worth the phone calls to first of all, we need to make sure that the window quote that you got is replacing like size for like size, and that they aren't providing, you could end up with smaller windows on your house, and I don't think that's what you want. So we need to make sure that what they're quoting is, like size for like size. But I think it might be worth the little bit of investigation to figure out whether there are other options that replace like for like in terms of wood or wood cladded. I know there are in a normal time, there are a number of options out there for that.
wood clad, you said, huh? All right. Well, and then I guess you would just call, you said Zealand Lumber for you, but Delu, and there's a lot of lumber companies, and I guess that's one thing to start there, because whoever's going to do any wood replacement is going to have to buy it from somebody, right?
Well, I think
Something
any
like
any window replacement company should have, I would think again, that they would have a line that includes wood, that includes wood windows. They would have access to a manufacturer that includes wood windows. For ours, I went to Zealand Lumber and sat down and worked with somebody there because I knew what I wanted to replace exactly what we had. So I had like my exact dimensions. So I sat down with someone there and went through it.
I'd be a little surprised if Justin didn't have a vinyl cladding on a wood window.
I would too, because it seems pretty commonplace.
Yeah.
In normal times, like that's something you would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
might be just accessing a different manufacturing line.
Right. All right. Well, that's a question to ask him. I've got a couple others, and then we'll just kind of maybe leave that open, Phil, to, the invitation to revisit on site or something like that,
Yeah. yeah, give me a call with what you discover and we can take it
Mhm.
there. Um,
Okay.
I don't want to jam up a possible agenda, but if that's something you can do in the next week or so, um, we're going to be having a conversation later about a possible special meeting. If it's possible to pick this up and get this taken care of at that special meeting rather than waiting until June.
Yeah, that would keep you moving forward too, Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do my best.
Okay.
I'll do my best to get something to you by, well, what is it, Tuesday? Hopefully by Friday, I'll get you,
Okay.
you know,
Okay.
a list.
Yeah. Let me know what you've
All
got.
right.
Yep.
And I'll get you the final too. So,
Okay.
So we should probably in the meantime, make a motion to table.
Table C, the
Yeah.
the windows.
Yeah. So is there somebody, you know, I'm motionless. So if there's somebody who feels comfortable making a motion to table item C
I
for
will make a
261
motion.
Van Royalty.
I will make a motion to table item C at 261 Van Royalty.
A second.
Thank you. Any last comments before we take a little vote? Okay, then I'll start roll call. Cook,
Approve.
Fowler,
Approve.
Lambers,
Approve.
Nieves,
Approve.
Berlinski and Shea are both absent. This is Ike and I also approve. So we will table item C related to the windows for 261 Van Royalty. Okay,
Thank you, Bob.
so Bob, 2/3.
thank you, everybody.
We got 2/3 of the way there.
Thanks, Bob.
Yay.
The house
All right.
is gonna look awesome.
Well, we'll see what we can do to get this going. Yeah, I think so. It's going to be fun. So,
It is. It's gonna look just great.
yeah. Well, the outside, the fence that you approved a couple of months ago is added to space for the dogs and us and access to our new neighbors across the street, you know,
Yep.
and it's worked out really well socially too.
Yes,
Good.
Yeah.
I love that.
So,
All right, so we'll table this and we'll come back to your windows when you've got a little bit more info.
all right, I'll get it to you as soon as I can.
Okay,
Thanks, Bob.
thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Yeah. See you,
Right.
Mallory. Smile.
Take care.
All right, bye.
Bye. Okay, so we are on to section 6, which is administrative approval. And so these are ones that Phil, if you want to go through the
Sure.
couple of items that we've got there for admin.
Yeah, I think people are enjoying being outside and counting on being outside. There's a lot of fences going up here.
I noticed.
We've got a fence at 276 Washington Boulevard that actually was already installed. It's a 6-foot wood fence, but I did approve that. Arcadia Govia, I think is the last name, is the owner of that property. Alan Martin's at 251 Van Royalty has gotten an approval for a fireplace vent being installed. Let's see. Nathan Green at 75 West 12th Street has gotten approval for a 6-foot wood fence. It's a section of fence. I forget the length of it, but it doesn't connect to the side fence or a garage or anything like that. But it's to replace what they have as a chain link fence in the backyard, and it's 6 foot. They would have loved to have had it 8 feet or maybe even higher, given what goes on in the property behind them. But they can live with the 6 foot. That's the maximum that's allowed. And it's going to be a little different. It's a horizontal wood fence, horizontal boards on a wood fence. Very attractive, I think. And it's almost a standalone sort of an element out there because it doesn't connect to other things. But that was approved as well. And And then at 262 West 11th Street, Kimberly Nolan was approved for a 6-foot fence in the rear of the property. And that one may even be installed already. I'm not certain of that. And I did have a question, Pierre. The house next to you, looks like they just put in a wood fence. Do you know the address of the house next to you?
I believe it's 244.
Okay.
I thought that had been administratively approved.
Well, it's possible. I don't remember it, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. So I just want to, I'll check. I noticed it when I was out taking a walk, actually yesterday morning.
They did a really good job.
Yeah, I think they did. Okay, well, I'll just see if we've got an application on that. That's it on the administrative reviews.
We're just cooking right along. Committee and staff report. So update on the Udo.
Yeah, it's, as I indicated in the quick memo, the Planning Commission has forwarded their recommendation to approve the Udo to City Council. Last week, they held a long study session discussion of the Udo. Really, it was, there was some public comment at the beginning of that process, but it was mostly staff and the consultant just beginning to tell City Council what all is in that whole program. And remember that the Udo is not just the issues involved in the no zoning signs that are around the neighborhood, but it's a much broader proposal for combining land use ordinances and zoning ordinances and street standards and a whole variety of things into one uniform development ordinance, which is what UDO stands for. So it's in council's hands now. I gave you a number of links that can give you different background information on the proposal. If you're interested in it, I would suggest you look at those different links. You may get a better sense. One or more of those links are the public comment that has come in, and those actually are quite long attachments, but it give you a good sense of kind of the overall comments that are coming in, both pro and con on certain aspects of the UDO. It's a huge amount of work that the planning staff and the planning commission have done. I think overall, I think there's a lot of praise due them in this effort, but there are some issues that are still issues that some residents in different neighborhoods have expressed concern about. So I think, Mallory, did you happen to catch when the next city council discussion will be on this?
I am not 100% sure. I don't know if it'll be at the next study session again, or if it will be a few weeks out still.
Okay, yeah, I'm not certain of that. If you're interested, I can send you a note on their schedule as they're continuing to consider this. That's really all I wanted to just tell you. There's a lot of information available online and lots of conversations going on about this.
So am I remembering that we voted, when we had the UDO presentation for the historic district, that we just kind of made a motion to recommend that? Or did I fog that in my memory?
Yeah, I don't recall a specific recommendation. There were comments about it. I don't think there was any conclusion come to by the commission.
Okay.
You raised a number of questions about infill and the density increases and what does that mean in the historic district, and those sorts of comments.
I think when Jenna came, it was more of a awareness as activity around the UDO was kind of ramping up, and also to give us some insight and hear from us what our concerns were. But we did not recommend or not recommend. We didn't take anything to a vote.
Okay, I couldn't remember. I remember the presentation, seemed like people were pretty positive about it, but
I think one thing to keep in mind is the Udo, there are different levels. I'm thinking of the historic district specifically. There are zoning changes that are being proposed, but even with those zoning changes, you've still got to get through the historic district ordinance and satisfy the requirements of that ordinance. There are building code issues that you've got to satisfy. So there's multiple layers in addition to sort of the initial offer of additional density. You may be able to do that density, you may not be able to, depending on how you propose it and depending on what your specific lot circumstances are. You may not meet setbacks, or you may not meet this or that. In a historic district, what I could imagine if someone had an approval, a desire to add a unit, and they have to do it within the confines of the building footprint, what you might see is an application for a new door in some location on a building, or converting a window to a door as a second entrance, or I sort of imagine those kinds of things being brought to you. It's conceivable somebody might want to put an addition going up or out on a building. That would have to come to you for approval. So ultimately, there's the historic district review on compatibility and all of those kinds of issues that are more akin to the kinds of things you typically review. So I don't think it would be sort of a foreign issue that comes up so much as maybe just encouraging some people to explore some additional options.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Phil.
Yeah.
So that's the Udo. The next thing is, what have we got now? Update on Centennial Park Management Plan.
Yeah. We sent you a link to the management plan. The draft essentially is complete. There is one final round of editing going on at the moment, but it won't change the substance of the document, but it's just some cleaning up of the document. So that is what has been provided by the consultant. We don't have a schedule yet for when that will go to City Council. We have been talking about trying to get a meeting together with the city manager and staff, probably in the next 2 weeks or so, just to go over what that process will be of taking this plan forward. Its implications on the greenhouses is yet to be determined. There's a recommendation, or I'll say options, but there's a preference expressed by the consultant based on the input that they received for a small portion, 27 by 27 or 29 by 29 square foot of the tropical house, the most ornate portion, that center
Just
portion.
the high portion, yeah.
Yeah. Of incorporating that in some way into Centennial Park. There's differences of opinion on the committee about whether that should be a restored structure or whether it should be just a skeletal structure. So there are some, the notion of the plan is that that size of a structure of the greenhouses could be appropriate within the park. And there's an area designated about where that would be most appropriate. It doesn't really strongly say, we recommend this should be in the park. That I think is dependent on program and cost and a variety of things that ultimately have to be determined. But if it's going to happen, there's a process that still has to be gone through with the greenhouses, with the Historic District Commission. So that whole set of issues is still, it's probably a little bit closer because we now have a Centennial Park plan and a sense of what would or would not be appropriate within the park. And it really is a limited portion of the greenhouse that is believed to be appropriate. So
if it went in the park, if it went elsewhere.
Absolutely, right. Yeah, there really wasn't a discussion other than to say there may be sites around the perimeter of the park, not within the park, that could accommodate at least the 27 by 27, but perhaps even the entire tropical house could become part of a development. But most of those properties are privately owned. There's been no conversation with the owners. That's a whole nother layer of what ifs, and are there possibilities? And the original study for the looking at different properties identified window on the waterfront park, and a couple of other sites were evaluated in that process. And while Centennial Park was the preferred site, there were others that would be worth exploring, like window on the waterfront. And now City Council is beginning to entertain a major playground in the park and a major ice skating facility in the park. The question then comes, is the tropical house or some portion of the greenhouses, is there any role that they could play in support of some of those notions that are being talked about? That whole conversation really still needs to be held. But there's, so I don't know when city manager or, ultimately Andy Kenyon, if the notion of placing a portion in Centennial is supported, there's still a need for someone, probably Andy Kenyon, to make an application to the Historic District Commission to do whatever it is they want to do, to take that 27 by 27 or and then what do you do with the rest of it? Does it get demolished? Does it get offered for sale? There's still lots of alternatives in that direction.
And even with the 27 by 27, I'll just say there's a interest in a couple members from Parks and Rec Commission, from the Parks Commission to take the 27 by 27 foot structure, but only if done as a skeletal structure. There hasn't been a lot of openness to exploring other options other than using it as a skeletal trellis.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I know Andy Kenyon has expressed support if they can come up with a program for how it would be used. There's some support, costs unknown at this point of a restoration or anything like that. But I think to me, it's an important part. What do you end up with if you just take the 27 by 27? Is it a remnant? Is it a relic? It gives you the ability to tell a story about the greenhouses and gives you sort of a starting point for that. But it doesn't necessarily preserve a whole lot of the greenhouse structure. So I think ultimately the proposal that comes to you, it's going to be your discussion about, is it appropriate to save the greenhouses or not, or some portion of them, and in what form, and what is appropriate, and does a historic designation move with the piece or pieces that might be relocated, or does the historic designation disappear in the process? There's a lot of room for conversation yet on this.
Yeah, and it's a little tricky only because while we may be passionate about preservation or may decide we're not passionate about preservation, we still need a person or a group to kind of bring it before us as a proposal as opposed to proposing to ourselves. So that's a little bit of the tricky side of it.
Yeah, I would agree that's tricky.
The other thing that I would, oh, sorry, go ahead, Phil.
Well, there's nothing stopping the commission from saying that we've received the report, we've reviewed it, and here are concerns moving forward. I think it better coming from the commission as a whole, I suspect, than from individuals if there's a consensus on the part of the commission. But it's a little premature in that the report hasn't even been received by council yet. And then the decision about who's the advocate for this, who's the applicant, and what is.
And the section about the greenhouse is very limited. I mean, it's an
It is
addendum
very-
at the end. That's
Yeah.
it's like put a pin in it for later. That's the equivalent of what the portion about the greenhouse is. You don't really get to it until like the last 2 pages.
Yeah.
And
And that
it's
was
more
really
of-
intentional.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think they have to be separate from each other. I mean, we
Yeah.
need a Centennial Park master plan, period,
Yeah.
regardless of what happens with the greenhouse. Those two are should and are decoupled.
Yeah. So more to come.
Yeah. The only other thing I wanted to make note of is that one item that has come up lately has had to do with, and if Jay's still on, this would be a good one to get his input on. I don't know if he's still on or not. Did we lose Jay?
Yeah, I think we lost him. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I
it
think
doesn't
we
look like
did.
it's on.
I should have chimed in sooner. That one thing that is perhaps an area of opportunity is education when it comes to our city council people about the historic districts, about what the historic districts do for the city. And in some of the dialogue or some of the city council meetings that I've sat in on, some of them have not known certain areas are historic districts. Phil and I were talking earlier this week about how some are unaware of the historic district designation that the downtown has, even as part of the national versus the city historic district, or that there are different districts within the city. So there's an education component opportunity. I don't know what that looks like yet. I haven't really given it much noodling since Phil and I met earlier, but I think it's come up in a couple of conversations that I've had lately about that is an opportunity, that's not something that the city council's had a lot of exposure to. All right, I'll keep rolling right along. C, assignment of review responsibilities for proposed work in the historic district.
Yeah, let me just ask the broader question because it's what 7:10.
Yeah.
Broader question is the possibility of an additional special meeting within the next 2 weeks. And the time frame is limited. The desire for a special meeting is in part because I'm departing, and I'd like to make sure questions have been answered on the pieces that are included here for the rest of the meeting tonight, as well as I want to get you the next draft of the design guidelines. So 2 weeks, I think I can pull the design guidelines portion together. And I'd like to at least have it to you and ready for the next person who takes my seat here. Have them, have a point of beginning for them and some consensus on what we've pulled together up to this point. So in all of that, these next 3 items could be part of that discussion, or I'm certainly able to get into the conversation now or see if you have any general questions about these. What I've provided to you are the assignment of review responsibilities. The last time you saw it, it was part of the bigger design guideline document and still can end up there, but I've broken that apart so that you can look at all of those together without getting into the detail of the guidelines. And I've also had the folks across the hall who handle the permitting on things take a look at that, and it's the most complete list I've had yet on what other permits might be necessary for each of the items that are identified under the different types of work. So it's, as far as I'm concerned, as a point of departure or next steps, that is pretty much intact. I would say generally you can adopt that as it exists, but I would identify two particular sort of hesitations on that. One is that there are two sections in it. One is a designated cultural landscapes, and the other is flat work. Both of those generally are in ordinance state that they're not reviewable items. So an ordinance change would be necessary to, I'll say, mandate those guidelines and even the review of those items. Flat work, concrete work, driveways, sidewalks, those generally are not reviewable items for you. The only real big exception is the Van Rolte Farm, which is a designated cultural landscape and has in the designation, it lists the Secretary of Interior standards for cultural landscapes. So that gets into all kinds of things, including landscape grading, all of the things that otherwise are not allowed, are not reviewable items for us. So as you look at the assignment of responsibilities, those two sections I left in red because really for a discussion about whether we want to proceed with those, whether there's a desire to begin to make some amendments to the ordinance. I suspect those amendments might be better after Kim's idea of education for the council is given an opportunity to be had. But the information is there if and when it's able to be brought forward and desired to be brought forward. So that's this first document. I don't know if you have any specific questions or general questions about this. I can try to answer those now, or I gave you a lot this weekend, so I can appreciate you didn't get through everything. Let me know which way you want to proceed on this. We can come back to it in 2 weeks, or we can call it good and keep going.
I did take a look at it. I think it might be a good idea if we are trying to get a meeting in 2 weeks to get everybody on the call and get everybody's opinion on it.
Yep.
I agree.
Okay. Then I'll give you the next two items, or the item D is really the two reports that are included there. It's the National Register districts, the downtown district, and the portion of the addition, historic district addition that was not included in the local designation. There are the two reports of each of those. I'm suggesting that those are done unless you've got done, with the exception of Mallory and I have talked a little bit about adding some photographs that just help make it a little more real for everybody as they're reading through this. But any comments you all may have on those now or in 2 weeks, we can deal with that. Okay, wake up.
I think it would be good for everyone to spend the next 2 weeks and going over this and planning to kind of put things to bed or put a bow on them when we meet in 2 weeks.
Or if there's additional work to be
Yeah,
done,
or if there's,
fine too.
right.
So, yeah. Okay. And then I hope to have a draft for you, probably the Friday or Thursday or Friday before that meeting of the updated version of the design guidelines themselves. I frequently get calls about different work, and it causes me to go back to those and reread them and tweak them a little bit and adjust them based on the questions that are being asked, and did we cover this or that well enough. So that could be an ongoing sort of evolving document over time, and probably should be as different issues come up. But
It sounds that way because it's, like I said, each project is like a snowflake.
Yeah. So I guess then the next question is, when are people able to meet? I sent out a note. We suggested, I know Kim suggested in her email after we talked, in 2 weeks. That wasn't necessarily on Tuesday of that week. And in fact, I've got another commitment on that Tuesday evening. But I could do Wednesday, 5 o'clock, or Thursday, 5 o'clock. Or if there's a different time of day during that week. I see John responded to my note this afternoon, indicated that he was available on the 19th, but not the 20th. I appreciate what you said, Justin, about getting everybody in the room at the same time. And I'm hopeful we can do that, but I also know everybody's got crazy schedules, and when the weather gets good, they get crazier. So,
Yep. Well, the 19th or the 20th, what'd you say, Phil? Did one of those work for you and didn't both work for me?
yeah, that's Wednesday and Thursday. At least that's
Wednesday and
19th and 20th.
Thursday, I
Yeah.
can make both of those work.
Okay. John has a problem on the Thursday.
Yep.
Mark, I think you said you were out of town on Tuesday. Does that apply?
Yeah, we're going to be in Boston for 3 weeks. And I may or may not be, we're out there to do some stuff, and I just don't know what my schedule is going to be when I get out there. But, if we're doing Zoom and I can come in, I certainly could try doing that. I'll have my laptop with me. So I think you just need to make it whatever works for most people, and I'll see if I can get on.
All right. Others?
Wednesday's good with me. Wednesday or Thursday.
Okay. Thanks, Peter. Others, you want to check your calendars or?
Yeah, either is fine for me.
Okay.
For me, either one works.
Okay. So who am I missing?
Nick.
3, 4, Nick, yeah. Okay, I'll check with Nick. And then I'll let you know, Kim, what we end up with here and just make sure we can move forward on it.
That sounds good.
Okay. That sounds good. Okay, well, that's really all I had. We'll figure out the date, and if Mark, if you're not going to be around, and it's helpful to shoot me something in advance,
Sure.
or anything like that, or anyone else, the more heads up I have, the more maybe I can address questions that come up, but we can talk it all through on the next meeting.
Good. Okay. That only leaves one thing, and that's motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Go through roll call one last time. Cook.
Approve.
Fowler.
Approve.
Lambers.
Approve.
Nieves.
Approve.
Zelinski and Share absent. I approve. I'll wrap this puppy up.
Okay.
That's good. I got kids put to bed.
Yeah, I bet you do.
Yeah.
I should
So
say,
sweet. Congrats, Steph.
Thanks.
yep, and hi to Har-Yi. She's hung in here, I think, the whole
hi,
meeting.
Harvey.
So
We saw you
Okay.
Oh my
stalking.
gosh.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Put this
Night,
thing.
everyone.
see everybody
All right,
soon.
take care,
See ya.
everybody.
Yep.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.